Alright guys, in today's video, we have an exciting update on Marvel's Wolverine. This is an upcoming PlayStation 5 exclusive that's being developed by Insomniac Games. There is a lot of excitement surrounding this game. Unfortunately though, we haven't heard too much about it. We only have one CG trailer that was released to let us know that the game was in development back in September of 2021. Since then, details have been scarce. But now we have a reliable industry insider revealing some pretty significant information about Marvel's Wolverine, and in my opinion, it all sounds very exciting. So before we dive into this information, do me a favor, if you end up enjoying this video or finding it informative, or if you're just excited for Wolverine, make sure you hit that like button and consider subscribing if you're new. But this is being reported on from PlayStation Lifestyle, and they say Insomniac is targeting a fall 2024 release date window for Marvel's Wolverine right now, according to the latest report, although that could slip to 2025 depending on how development progresses. The same report claims that the game will also be aiming for a mature rating and will not be completely open world. Insomniac apparently wants to avoid tying Marvel's Wolverine to any of the X-Men movies, and they intend to do this by setting the game in a time before the hero joined the X-Men, at least according to industry insider Jeff Grubb. Talking on the Giant Bomb Game Mess Mornings podcast, Grubb said that Wolverine would not be part of a team when the game started. Whether the character joins up with the X-Men further into the game remains to be seen. On the other hand, there's a chance that Wolverine and Marvel's Spider-Man 2 will share the same world. Grubb expects Wolverine to have a cameo or Easter egg in Spider-Man 2, although the games won't be too similar. Firstly, Wolverine will be a semi-open world game with a linear design that includes several smaller open world areas. Secondly, the game is aiming for a mature rating by including things like human dismemberment, something that isn't entirely unexpected, bearing in mind the Spec Ops: The Line writer, Walt Williams, is the narrative director on this game. So these are some really good details that we're learning about Marvel's Wolverine. First and foremost, it's really good to hear that they're going for an M rating for video games. This is something that a lot of Wolverine fans were wondering. You know, we get Spider-Man from Insomniac, and we know that that game's not going to be rated M. It doesn't really need to be rated M, but when you look at a character like Wolverine, I think the expectation is, yeah, this game's going to have to be rated M in order to do justice to the character of Logan properly in the way that fans, you know, want to see. It's pretty much going to need to be a mature game. So hearing that they're doing that is very good. And, you know, I'm going to be honest, I kind of expected this because, as this article points out, they have the writer behind Spec Ops: The Line, which was a very mature themed game that, you know, touched on some very heavy topics. So, you know, I don't think that they would hire somebody like that for a game like Wolverine if they weren't planning on, you know, going in that mature direction. It's also insane to hear that they are internally targeting a fall 2024 release date window. Now, it's important to understand that this is not set in stone, right? We don't necessarily know how far along in development Wolverine is. You know, I think, give or take, if they're targeting fall 2024, it's probably about halfway completed. But we know by this point that when it comes to video game development, especially these bigger AAA games, you know, they can hit roadblocks sometimes, or they might miss certain deadlines if some things are just taking a little bit longer than anticipated. So I would not be shocked if in the end this game does end up getting delayed into 2025. But here's the good news. The fact that they're targeting a fall 2024 release tells us that if they do have to end up delaying the game, it will likely come out within the first half of 2025. I think some people were maybe anticipating that this could be a game that maybe doesn't come out till like fall or holiday of 2025. But I also want to add to this that considering we are getting Spider-Man 2 at the end of this year, right, in fall of 2023, assuming that doesn't get delayed, it is actually insane to think that Insomniac is planning just 1 year later to release a Wolverine game. That is a very ambitious thing to strive for, and it would be incredible if they're able to pull it off. I mean, when we think about Insomniac games, I think by this point, we all know just how talented they are. They've been doing some amazing work in the industry and for PlayStation ever since they were acquired by PlayStation. I mean, they were doing amazing work prior to that, but ever since Sony acquired them, they just seem to have ramped things up, and that doesn't seem to be stopping. So I don't necessarily doubt that they're going to be able to release this game in fall of 2024, but I guess I'm just trying to stress just how ambitious that really is. Now, to also hear that the game is not going to be open world, but instead wide linear, at least that's how we would describe it. You know, it's saying it's not completely open world, but it's going to have some open world type environments or levels or sections. This is something that is actually pretty common for a lot of PlayStation exclusives. I mean, many of Sony's exclusives are full-blown open world, but a lot of them are also this kind of wide linear. The game that comes to mind to me right now is something like God of War Ragnarok, right? Where it is ultimately a linear game, but there are these wider open sections that you come across that allow for further exploration. I think this is the way to go for a game like Wolverine. I think a lot of people were assuming that because Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 are open world, you know, maybe that means Wolverine's also going to be open world, but it also confused some people because, you know, we're not really sure how exactly that's going to translate. I feel like when you think about Spider-Man, it taking place in New York, it translates very well, very naturally. You don't even really have to think about it, right? Like, of course it has to be open world. With a game like Wolverine, though, it's a little bit different. And so the fact that they're going for wide linear makes me very happy because that's what I was hoping for. I think it would have been very interesting if they tried to go for a full-blown open world, or if they wanted to go in the other direction and make it super linear, but I think at this point, you know, when it comes to linear-based games, looking at something like I said, God of War Ragnarok is kind of the template where if you're trying to make it a bigger AAA game, with, you know, sprinkle in a few areas where you can just do a little bit more than you would just say a full-blown on-rails linear game. I think that's what most people were hoping for, so that's awesome. And the final thing here, where he makes it clear that this is going to be a standalone game, the amount of people that I've seen since this game was revealed saying that they need to get Hugh Jackman to voice Wolverine or to use his likeness. And don't get me wrong, I love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. In my opinion, he is Wolverine, you know, when it comes to the live action stuff, but I actually like this, just like what Insomniac did with Spider-Man in their games, right? I mean, we've had many different versions of Spider-Man, live action and different video game versions, but the fact that Insomniac was able to carve out, in my opinion, one of the best versions of Peter Parker and one of the best versions of the Spider-Man universe that we've seen, that gets me incredibly excited because I can't wait to see what they're going to do for Wolverine. So, in my opinion, this is some very good information we're getting, assuming all of it is true. The very last thing I want to say here is I do believe this information because Jeff Grubb has proven to be a reliable industry insider. He has a very good track record, all things considered. So assuming that all this information is true, it sounds like this game, as I said when it was first announced, is in fact going to be a dream game of mine. I'm, you know, a huge fan of Wolverine. He's one of my favorite characters, Logan, and I never thought that Insomniac would be, you know, doing a Wolverine game on top of, you know, Spider-Man, but here we are. So at this point, I can't wait to see more of this game and get some official information. That's going to do it for the video though, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. I hope you found it informative. If you did, leave it a like, subscribe if you're new, hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.